Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move forward with our agenda. Um, as let's see here. All right. All right. I know there's some questions about public comment, and on my agenda, one of the things we just want to address right now, because from last week, we had some comments and public comments that were emailed, and we had some comments that were emailed today. And what we're going to do is we will not be reading public comments today. We have a governance committee that's going to look at a coming up with a policy for public comments. We do value your comments, and we have received them. And so our governance committee will be taking a look at coming up with a policy by which we can allow those comments to be processed and also respect your voice in that process. So we will get back with you on our policy regarding public comments. Aaron, do you have any? Is Aaron here?
I am, but I'm not. Can you hear me?
What?
Yes.
You're just leaving Bakersfield?
Okay.
No,
yes, I'm here. Are we doing a governance committee update?
Call you back. Aaron's on a call and I can't talk while she's talking.
Oh, hold on. Someone is on. Could you mute yourself? Okay. All right, Aaron, just wanted you just to speak on the issue of public comments.
Sure. Yeah, at our last governance committee, we had a very robust conversation about the need to move towards a more open public comment policy that will allow people to have their voices heard in real time. And so we are working with the law department to structure that so that it fits with the Open Public Meetings Act, and also finding out about the technology that like city council uses to be able to moderate and facilitate public comment. This, I think this is really an important point that we understand, and we've heard from community that they want their voices to be heard. And so we are working on that actively.
All right, thank you, Aaron. We're going to move forward with our agenda today. The next item of business is CPC commissioner seats. And I know there's been some questions about that. There are two CPC seats that are open, two council seats that are open, but no vacancies for mayoral appointments. Ending terms of a term ending for me by the council, my term will be ending this year. Douglas Wagner, and then a reappointment of Aaron Goodman and Prachi. This means that the seats that the folks are in the term for the seat is ending, but when you are appointed, you complete the term currently where it's at, and then you fulfill the full term you were appointed for. So you finish a term, and then you start a full term. Any questions or comments on the CPC roster seats update?
Hi, Reverend Williams. This is Douglas. So is there anything in particular I or anyone else who's finishing out a term needs to do to just go ahead and get reappointed, or is that an automatic process?
I'm not sure. I know when I was reappointed, I had to fill out a document as to why I wanted to be on the CPC, and that had to be submitted to, I think, to the council. Correct me if I'm wrong, Reverend Walden, but I think that was the process.
Well, for me, I did not have to do that. The mayor just called me up and just said, asked me if I wanted to be reappointed, and I said yes. And
Okay.
and Douglas would probably let the appointing authority know that he's interested in being reappointed, and then that process could probably. But for the mayor's process, that wasn't for me. It was just a phone call, and so city council might have a different process, because I guess each one is independent and might do it differently. But Douglas, I mean, I would just call the appointing authority, or you'd send them an email and say you're interested in being reappointed, and that should take care of that. And then when it's time to reappoint, then it just happens in the city council. That's all. Yeah.
Thank you, Reverend Walden.
You're welcome.
All right. Other business, Labor Day CPC meeting. Many of you already know that is canceled. And we've already just addressed the public comment process discussion. That will be we've turned that over to the governance committee. And new staff. New staff. Who would like to? Is Shailene? Are you?
Yes, I'm here. We have a new person with us. We have to share a computer at the moment. I'm gonna turn the video on. I hope she's ready for it, so she can get a small introduction. Oh, here we go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nia Franco, and today is my first day as the Senior Policy Advisor for the CPC. I'm really excited to be here. I am a native Chicagoan, born and raised there. Prior to this, I worked for the Public Safety Office of Inspector General in Chicago. So about 3 years worth of experience in public safety oversight rather. So I'm really excited to be here and ready to get to work.
She's very excited.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome,
Glad to
Nia.
have you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, all righty.
All right. Action items review. I don't think there are any action items as it stands right now.
No, I don't think so, Reverend.
Oh, okay. Do we have comments from DOJ? Is anyone from DOJ here?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. This is Brittany Saraneo with the U.S. Attorney's Office. There is no DOJ update this week.
Okay, thank you. Monitor, is Ron Ward here?
I haven't seen Ron today.
Okay. Council, representative from the council? Mayor update. Is Austin here?
Yes, this is Austin. Morning, everyone. Update I have is just to give answers from the questions that we received last week. I sent these in written form as well to Brandy and Shailene, so hopefully they can share them. But I will just go through them quickly, and then if anyone has any additional questions, feel free to let me know. So last week we were asked, what is the timeline for the police chief search? And as you all know, today was Chief Diaz's first day on the job as he started September 2nd. We will continue to work around reimagining community safety as we work with community, accountability partners, and the City Council through 2021's budget process and beyond to identify and realign functions of SPD that will either be continued to be performed or be shifted to community-based and civilian-led responses. And as we define this reimagining scope and function of SPD, we will be looking for our next leader of the SPD. So we anticipate the timeline for a permanent chief to begin in 2021. The next question was around Esther's question around the navigation team and potential meeting or forum. And we will be working to get that scheduled and see what the next steps are. We also heard what was the concerns about cutting the navigation team. And as I mentioned in our release, our office's concern is the effective elimination of the navigation team, including outreach workers in the Human Services Department, without an alternative approach to addressing hazardous encampments. The next question was, is there a timeline for when SPOG contract negotiations will begin? SPOG and SPMA negotiations timeline is in development. We wanted to make sure to build in sufficient time to engage community. In addition, recent changes adopted by City Council into the 2020 budget will necessitate bargaining with both unions. We anticipate the timeline will be driven by the Labor Relations Policy Committee, which is comprised both of council members and the executive, and ability to reach parameters to begin bargaining. And then the final question from last Wednesday was, how is the city start to engage the CPC on the next steps around the consent decree? And CPC co-chairs have regular meetings with the mayor as well. And this is a good topic for discussion. We recognize that Judge Robart has made a decision to select a new monitor. So the CPC's participation in bridging the gap between the new monitoring team and the community will be an important role, as we welcome the opportunity to participate with the entire CPC on ways to partner in the next steps around the consent decree. And so if you all have further ideas on how we can engage, please let our office know. And then very quickly on Friday, and this is actually, I think, a part of the agenda later on, we presented an SPD function tool that also was part of a survey. And we received really wonderful feedback from a number of commissioners, but we also received a couple of questions from staff and commissioners, so I will answer those now as well. The first question was, what was the background tool or program used to create this? The tool was built using HTML and JavaScript, and a visualization built using D3.js. And then the survey itself was just Microsoft Forms. We were asked what other organizations will you receive in advance of this going live to community. We're looking to share this with BML Seattle King County, the Urban League, the NAACP, the Boys and Girls Club, as well as the Office of Civil Rights Commissions across the city, and possibly the Arts and Music Commission. The next question was, what was the cost associated with creating the tool? There was no cost to us. We worked with US Digital Response and they built the tool free of charge. This did exclude staff time working on it, but no outside cost beyond staff working on the program. And then the final question was, how are we weighting demographic responses? How are we ensuring that centering BIPOC community and we're not those that have been served well by the police structure? And our office's goal is to partner with community as well as city departments to have a higher response rate by BIPOC communities. And we will also be working to appropriately weight response of the disproportionately impacted residents. So that is the update. Happy to take any additional questions or comments now.
All right, thank you, Austin. Are there any questions or comments for Austin?
Yeah, this is Colleen, and I just have a comment. Austin, I'm wondering if you could add to the list of folks or community groups, the Seattle Urban Native Nonprofit Group. It's called SUN. And if you, I think that they would have some good perspectives.
Okay, yeah, I will pass that on. Thank you, Colleen.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Thanks for that update, Austin. This is Douglas. Yeah, I mean, on the question of bringing the city back into compliance with a consent decree and the city working with accountability partners per the judge's order to make that happen, I would defer to the leadership of the co-chairs, but my recommendation would be to just set up a work group and just start the discussion about what that plan is going to be and what we all think needs to be included to bring the city back in compliance with the consent decree with respect to the accountability section. So, I think it would be appropriate and helpful to just kind of bring together a work group of all those different parties that are outlined in the judge's order and just start those discussions and just get the ball rolling.
Thank you for that, Douglas. I will pass that recommendation along as well.
Hi, Austin. This is Esther Lucero. I would add one more group, and that is the Healthier Here group, especially as we're looking towards really improving access to health services, mental health services, substance use services. It's the most diverse governing body I've experienced. And so I think that would be a really good place to kind of vet things.
Absolutely. Could you, Esther, could you mention that group one more time? There was just a bit of background noise and I didn't catch the actual name.
Yeah, sorry, my kid is doing school while I'm doing this. So it's Healthier Here, formerly known as King County Accountable Community of Health. So King County ACH is now called Healthier Here.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions?
What is the process of including community representatives into the union contract negotiations?
That is still going to be in development as we discuss both with the community partners as well as the CPC and others on how our process will take place. So once we have more information, happy to share, but we're not quite there yet.
Thank you. All right.
All right. Thank you, Austin. And we're going to move on to our next item of business. CPC updates, co-chair updates. I don't have any updates. Reverend Walden, do you have anything?
Well, no real updates, but just we have some places, we have to have spaces still for commissioners who wants to volunteer on some of the work groups that's still going on, and those are, I think it's defund, and then the police accountability. I think they've been they're still going on. Carlene is there gracefully stepping up to chair that, and Esther has gracefully stepped up to chair the defund. And so I'm sure that there's places where other commissioners can still get in there and make their voice heard, and then represent their communities that way also. That's about it. And Esther's doing an excellent job. I mean, she stepped up in a big way over there at the for the defund kind of work group. So thank you, Esther. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Reverend Walden. Governance committee update.
Sure, I think I covered a lot of it, but
Oh, yeah.
at our last meeting, we are continuing to address the bylaws. And, to be clear, I want to clarify my statements from earlier. We currently have a policy on public comment. It is that we accept written comment. However, that is something that is what we are looking at. We are also looking at all of the structures that mandate us. The original bylaws were written for an organization that was much smaller commission. And so as we sort of have realized as we move forward, there's some kinks in our function. And so we have done a full view. It's currently back with our attorneys to be reviewed to make sure that everything is legal. And we will get that copy back on the 18th and hope to have the ability to put it on the next CPC agenda for discussion. And the other thing that the governance committee is working on is working with the executive search firm for the executive director search. We had a kickoff meeting, and that was just to sort of decide roles and responsibilities. Prachi will be the lead to be working with the firm, and that we will be scheduling small group meetings with commissioners, so they want to speak to all of the commissioners and other key partners and community to make sure that they have a full understanding of what we're looking for in our next executive director. So that is all in process as well. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Aaron. Any comments or questions?
Or send us a tweet.
Hello? Any questions or comments for Aaron?
Thanks.
All right. All right. The next item is regarding Terry Caver, OPA investigations and CPC. Is Director Meyerberg here? Or someone from that office?
Reverend Williams, I don't see him on the participants list,
Okay.
but I think Brandy may be checking in right now, but I will let you know if something changes and I see it.
Okay. All right. Well, the next item is to set the agenda. We know that we have for Labor Day. Labor Day week, we are that meeting is canceled, so it would have to be for the next meeting.
Right.
So we added another component to our agenda about what to put on the next agenda for the following week. So this will be after the Labor Day week. So are there any other things that we need to add to the agenda to set for that particular? I think I can't remember what date that is, but let's see here.
It's going to be the week of the 13th, I believe.
Okay.
Or the 14th, yeah. One item we might put on the agenda is to circle back to find out. I mean, I know that we were working on, I'm looking at some of the closed cases. I know Karen was working on some of those. And so that might be something to put on the agenda, just to go back and see where that process is and see how we can pick that up again. That was some work that was going on.
Okay. Okay, Andrew Meyerberg will not be reporting out today. We'll follow up with him in the future.
Okay.
Any other items that we want for the agenda for the week of the 13th?
Reverend Williams, this is Colleen. I'll start my video actually. I am curious and would love to maybe have a presentation. I don't know how we do this, about the compensation structure for officers and how that all works. I think we all probably read yesterday's Seattle Times report about the pretty extreme compensation, and it seemed like some very unfair practices that have been going on. I know that in past years we have had presentations about that, and I think that this might be a good time to try to understand it a little bit better and offer some guidance for future negotiations that are coming up. So that's an agenda item I'd like to see.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. I think that's a good.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what she means by compensation.
I'm just talking about like how officers are paid, like just understanding how it works, and get some better clarity. I don't know if you read the article yesterday on, and just wanting to understand it better. It seems, according to the Seattle Times, it seems grossly unfair, but that's why I'm asking for more clarity around it, so we're not just looking at one article.
Hi, this is Shaylee. If I can jump in for a second. Officer Mullins, and for everyone else, what Colleen is referring to is that yesterday Seattle Times released an article about a particular SPD officer that received, I think it was in excess of $400,000 income for a year because this person was able to work double the amount of hours in overtime. And so they were talking about the extreme nature of pay. And Colleen, I don't want to speak for you, but it sounds like that's what you're referring to. And it seems like the ask is, can we have SPD or budget come in and discuss how officers are compensated, potentially how overtime works in that nature?
Yeah, that's exactly it, Shailene. According to the article, it seems like, there is no accountability. and there's no way of tracking, or the way of tracking the overtime is incredibly antiquated. It's just on paper, and it can be turned in much later after the hours have been worked. Which, you know, I run an organization, and that's just incredible. That would never be allowed. So I'm just talking again about how do we understand it better so that we're not reacting to one article, and then what could we do to make sure that it's more it's fair in the future.
All right, thanks, Colleen. Any other items, suggested items for the agenda?
Maybe we should put OPA back on the agenda for the next time.
Yes,
They were
absolutely.
not able to make the presentation this time.
Okay. All right, anything else? Okay,
Reverend Williams,
go ahead.
I think eventually I've always been kind of fascinated by this idea that, like, with the consent decree, like, there's a moment where accountability is not ongoing and it's just achieved, and then we won't be under that anymore. And which that's not how accountability works. And so I know this is kind of a long term, or like, I think maybe a loftier conversation, but I'm just curious and thinking into the future, you know, once we're not in the consent decree, how we create an ongoing, like, lifelong process of accountability. Like, you know, Reverend Williams, if you and I are friends and I'm a jerk to you, like, for the rest of my life, I can, as my friend, I would expect you to hold me accountable to that. It's not like, oh, we've been friends for 2 years, you don't have to hold me accountable anymore. And so I think it's like the same with, like, the police department of, like, you know, what does that look like? Just like when we're not in the consent decree. And I don't know how we would have that conversation, because I think it's a really big topic, but it's just been something I've been thinking about, like, as we're doing this work and as community is speaking up, like, what does that actually look like? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, let's put that on the agenda. I think makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alina. Any other comments? All right, if there are no other comments or anything else to add to that particular agenda, we can conclude this meeting.
Oh, there's some more updates there. Legislative got a few updates from the work group side that Carlene and Esther's involved with.
Oh, okay. Okay, I don't see that.
Yeah, it's part of the updates, legislative agenda, police accountability. And I know Esther had requested, and it was duly noted, that we have more robust discussion around what the work groups was doing. And so I know that there should probably be some updates from the committees. And I think that the mayor's office has already given some of their presentation already.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, I see it now. It was the copy I printed wasn't on the second page, it was on the back page.
It's all good.
Hi, Reverend Williams. This is Shailene again. Yeah, we do have an update from the work groups and those commissioner leads, Colleen for legislative agenda and Esther for a defund. Also, there is a presentation. Austin Miller is here to talk about a budgeting tool that the city has created. So we were going to present that and solicit feedback during the defund portion. But also just a reminder that this section, the work group updates, this will now be a time as well that we will kind of go back to a similar pattern we used to have of allowing more of a work breakout brainstorming session where people can get a little bit deeper into the committee work, especially defund, as we move through this process of what recommendations we might offer to council and the mayor's office. So this is going to be, not that the meeting is not exciting in its entirety, this will be a little bit more of an interactive phase when we come to this portion of the agenda, and it'll be commissioner led, which is fantastic. So I will stop there and I will hand it off to Colleen.
All right. Good morning, everybody. It's great to see all of your names on the Zoom call. It's a new way of doing work in this world, and I'm glad to be with you all. I just want to talk a little bit about the legislative agenda update. Thank you, Shailene, for helping me walk this through. We have had, it's been tricky and hard to get the right kind of timing going, but we believe that bi-weekly meetings starting this Friday, September 4th, is going to be working for us. So it's 1 to 2 p.m. if anybody has time to drop in. We're working on some next steps, which include putting together some priorities for the upcoming legislative agenda. Included in that, here's a few things, and we'd really love your feedback if you have other ideas. Collective bargaining is a top priority. We think that there might be some great potential collaboration with the ACLU of Washington. This committee, we know that we need to really start to brainstorm on how to best capitalize on our strength and the resources of the CPC and make sure that we have, some kind of representation at the bargaining table. So that is going to be a really huge thing for us as we move forward. We're also going to be talking about decertification, body-worn video, and de-escalation practices. We're planning a meeting with the Office of Intergovernmental Relations to learn more about city priorities and see if there's some way we can do some alignment with them, and also just get their feedback and suggestions. So that is pretty much it. We'll continue to keep you guys updated. And again, huge thanks to staff for keeping us on track and moving us forward. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. That's a report from our legislative agenda, police accountability work group, defund and reinvest. Esther?
Good morning, everybody. I'll keep this brief because I really want to give as much time as possible to Austin Miller to really model the dashboard. So what we spend a lot of time with in the defund committee, of course, is it's similar to what we're hearing. It's a theme about how we can engage community in a more meaningful way, in a more respectful way, and how we can maybe fill the gaps regarding information and really present points of consideration in a way that's user-friendly. Sometimes legalese is really designed to keep community out of it, and I think that's a role that CPC is willing to play, is to do a little bit of that analysis and definitely demonstrate, make those tools user-friendly and the information user-friendly. We had a demonstration from Austin Miller at the mayor's office on the new budget dashboard, and I asked Shailene to be able to present all of the questions and recommendations that came out of the subcommittee. I think it's very important that community understand that, and then also ask for feedback from the broader board. So I really want to make sure that we maintain enough time to do that. And I just want to make sure that we continue this commitment to community, and that we strengthen our community voice and we help advance community goals. And so that's not just me. I know that's a commitment from the CPC. So with that, I will hand it over to Shailene if I've left out any details, and also to Austin for the budget dashboard presentation. And again, I apologize. My son just started school, and so he and I are trying to figure out how to work together. So I hope everybody's all doing well with the homeschooling piece.
Thank you, Esther.
Thanks, Esther. Hi, everyone. We did have a presentation from Austin Miller on Friday with a new budget tool that describes how budgeting is allocated for the Seattle Police Department. And then we did have a list of questions that were captured and comments that were made from the commissioners that were on the committee. And so what I'd like to do before I share those, kind of the cart horse, I want you to hear the comments before you see the tool. It is in the agenda. There is a hyperlink within the agenda. It says tool in parentheses. So click that and it'll take you to it. I will share my screen. Austin, if that works, I'm gonna hand over to Austin. And then Austin, I can share my screen if we wanna do that and we can go through the tool that way, or you can share your screen. How would you like to do that?
Shailene, I may have to unmute him. Give me just 1 second.
Okay. Yeah, he said he can't.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. If you want to share your screen again, that'd be great. And then
okay.
We'll kind of go through a little bit faster today, just since some folks have already seen it, and then give space for questions. Sure. Again would be perfect. So.
Let me do that. Okay. Can everyone see? It says Open Budget Seattle. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Yep. Perfect. Okay.
Great. So yeah, as it was mentioned, we presented this to a smaller group of the defund work group on Friday and had a great number of comments and questions. And so I think that the first thing before we dive into this, I just want to say that this is going to be an ever evolving tool. So as we receive comments both from the CPC and other community groups and the broader community, we can always make adjustments. And that's exactly what we want to do. We want to make this as effective as possible. So at the top here, you'll see the take the survey button, but actually it's one of the recommendations I actually made to our team was that maybe we might want to flip the order of these because otherwise you may try to take the survey before kind of diving into the details. But Shailene, if you scroll down a little bit, we will see the actual SPD function tool. Oh, the same issue as we had last time. We may want to open it in another browser. So that's a thing that we need to flag.
My apologies, as I did this literally last time. Everyone, please bear with me. I apologize for this.
But that's from an accessibility standpoint, that's again a good flag because we want to make sure it works for everyone. Not everybody has multiple browsers on their computer. So if we scroll down a little bit, we see the actual tool itself, and again, I recognize that some of the blocks here need to be resized, and so we're working on that. But essentially what this tool does is gives folks an opportunity to dive into each of the functions and bureaus that the Seattle Police Department has. So if you were to click, for example, on criminal investigations, that gives you all of the different bureaus and task forces, et cetera, that are within that portion of the Seattle Police Department. It allows you to see the labor representation that is associated with each of these areas, the number of civilian staff, the number of sworn staff, as well as the budget allocated to that area, and then a brief description. So we just wanted to make sure that people could actually kind of go through the department at a in-depth level enough to get a better understanding, but not going into so much minutia that it would be incredibly difficult to understand. Some of the comments that we heard last week, for example, would be to explain what those labor organizations are. Not everyone knows what SPMA, SPOG, or Local 17 is, and so that was a great feedback. And then just kind of how this tool works. Again, I recommend everyone use it a little bit on their own and go through piece by piece and read into more detail. But because we're still working on the description on top, if you need to get back, you click back on the top gray box, and that brings you back to the main kind of blue tiles that are the overarching areas. So once someone has reviewed this function tool and feel like they have a good grasp of the information presented and the budget breakdown, either at the top or if you scroll down, Shailene, to the bottom, there's a little bit more of a description past again, here's another breakdown of the total budget allocated to those different functions and operations. But if you scroll down to the survey portion, here's just a brief description of our goal with the community survey. an email you can send additional questions to. If anyone has comments today, you can either say them verbally to me, or feel free to send me an email directly if you have feedback, again, on how this tool could be improved or the survey itself. But then here at the bottom is our actual survey, where we're capturing demographics of those that have participated in the survey. And then there's about 14 total questions that are much more open-ended and qualitative for folks to give feedback on how they feel like we could reimagine the police department. So this is just one of our many tools in the toolbox, and is meant to support the efforts already going on in the community, but give us an opportunity to collect feedback from across the city, and especially focus on our BIPOC community. So I know that was a quick presentation, but it really is kind of a tool that clicking through and reading up on each section is the best way to learn more. But we know that presentationally, it can be improved as well. So happy to hear feedback now, or if anyone has additional comments, feel free to send them to me. And hopefully, if not already, you should have received kind of all the comments we received from the defund work group as well, so you can see what information has already been shared with us.
All right. You have a task force on the trafficking, sex trafficking of individuals.
I think Austin is on mute again. Is that you're asking a question for Austin?
No, I see sexual assault and sex.
Okay.
So I think I don't know if that would be the same as trafficking.
Okay.
It might be. I don't know. I was just trying to see if you had a task force on trafficking of young persons.
I believe that, yeah, it would be under that the sexual assault section, but I can verify.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Any other questions or comments for Austin or Shailene?
Hi, Reverend Williams. I think that I'm going to ask Shailene to present maybe a couple key questions that we presented in committee to give folks an idea of how we kind of dug into this a little bit more. Is that okay with you, Shailene? I apologize for putting you on the spot.
No, that's totally fine. Sorry, I had to stop sharing my screen for a minute so I can pull them up. I think it'd be, Esther, I think you're 100% correct. I think this would be a really good opportunity for people to hear what was the comments that were made. So let me pull up those comments here. And I can kind of read some of them off. Esther, I can read them off, or do you want me to share that piece of what was put together for you? I can share them and people can read them. We can go through them. How would you like to?
I definitely want to share the screen, but I think it would be good if we chose kind of a couple of examples of the level of to which we were kind of digging in, right? Like if I think about key questions and one of the questions was, how much did this cost? Right? We really want to understand the cost of this and the mayor's investment. I'm thinking about those just out loud. Again, this for me is an opportunity for us to demonstrate to community what happens in committee, right? And then obviously engage our broader governing board, our broader commissioners, so that we can get even more meaningful engagement. So that's what I'm looking for here.
Okay, let me share this portion.
Great.
Okay. So these are some of the questions that Austin was going to look into and also have a response. And I think, Austin, some of these jump in as needed that you might have already had answers to, but some of this was just understanding like how this tool was created. Like, did they use Tableau? Did they use their platform? We discussed, like Esther said, the costs associated with creating this tool. That was one for our office to know if we wanted to create something similar, but also in the larger scheme, we were talking about defunding and reinvesting. How much money is the department, the city putting into a tool like this, and potentially, if it was very expensive or cost effective, what that might look like in terms of getting resources into the hands of the population. And then again, looking at the survey capturing race, gender, income, and making sure that they're centering the BIPOC community within that tool and accessibility, but also knowing demographics of the people that are represented, the civilian and the sworn. What are the demographics of that population as well, so people can see who actually makes up the department itself. And then who else they're going to be sharing this with. And a lot of questions revolved around this going live, and then who else can the department and the mayor's office partner with in order to solicit feedback in terms of accessibility. Is this tool, is it readable for everyone? Does everyone understand how to navigate it? Is it something that they can use? Are there other items there that people should use? And we know as a CPC, and the commissioners completely, dead on read that to Austin of, you need to make sure that many hands and many eyes are on this. If you're going to release a tool, everyone should understand how to use it, or else it's not a tool at all. So that was a lot of the conversation that we had in terms of this down here.
And Shailene, can we show the other bullets that we had?
Yes.
Thinking about the conversation around things we wanted to dig into a little bit deeper, like the 911 calls, for example. Budgets related to that. Leadership, salaries, and those types of things. So I think that I want to make sure I see what Austin captured in regards to what the mayor's office should respond to. And at the same time, before implementing this tool or launching this tool, I'd like to see some of these other questions addressed, right? Like understanding FTE. We talked about things like, is there a carryover budget from the previous year, or are we fully spent? Those types of things. So we also talked about kind of salary categories in regards to the city structure. So what I really want folks to know is that we are asking those very hard questions. And if we're missing anything, that's something I really, really want to know.
So these are some other ones that she's talking about. I think this bullet point that's here on the top for labor unions, Austin already spoke to this about adding a section that describes them in detail, because of course not everyone knows FOG or SPMA or Local 17. What does that mean? So we had a really good eye with the commissioners, and fortunately with our community engagement director in the room, as well as Nick Christian, having that community-centered eye of like, hey, people aren't going to understand this, not every time, and we shouldn't assume that people do, which was invaluable feedback. And then connection to can add information about the previous budget years. And Esther was alluding to that, like, is there carryover? Do we underspend, overspend? Discretion to budget allocation, showing line items. Let's break it down in as much detail as possible as they can, so people can see, we had this, and I'll go back to the tool here. One of the things was going over to like patrol operations, and we have this emergency 911 response services. And so what you see is like how many civilian, how many sworn staff, and what the budget is. But then some of the commissioners and people are asking, hey, is there a line item option where you can also show, personnel, equipment, what are the actual things that this 120 million actually goes to, so people can see that in detail. So that was another piece of the questions that we were referring to. Let me get back over here. And then I really enjoyed all of these, but this one, is it possible to show a percentage change over time for these different functions, maybe the last 5 years? Did they grow or shrink dollar and staff wise? that would be incredibly interesting, not even just for the policy or budget wonks in the room, but just for people to see how the department has grown, how it has shifted and allocated money. If we had personnel or staff changes, did they increase, did they decrease, what that looked like over the course of the last years? Are there any trends? And that would be really helpful, especially for our defund committee when they're looking at potential recommendations. And I believe, yes. So these were the questions, a few call outs, comments. One that was really helpful is that there was a discussion about we may want to increase the text size. That might seem really small or nuanced, but I think we have to consider the entire population of Seattle and the greater Seattle area and other jurisdictions that look at this tool. We cannot assume that everyone can see smaller text. I'll go back here. Making the white box here that has a description, maybe we can make that a little bit bigger. Just having, when you go to, oh, I apologize, everyone. I have this mouse, it's really interesting. Okay, patrol operations, like, can this be a little bigger? Just so readability, and so we make sure that the department is putting out tools that everyone can use, everyone can understand, everyone can read, because we do the best collectively when we all have the same collective accessible information. And again, big shout out to Nick Christian, our community engagement director, for noticing and calling those items out. Yep.
Thank you, Shailene, you're a rock star. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
So this is where we have just a little bit more time, I believe, to ask commissioners if you have any questions or feedback or things we've missed.
This is great.
I'll also go back to, I'm gonna share screen again and I'll go back to the tool itself. So if anyone wants me to click on something, and I think Austin, are you unmuted again? Are you able to speak?
Yep, still
Okay.
here. So yeah.
I will go back to the tool and I will share a screen so anyone can ask questions or of Austin. And if you want me to move around, click on anything, please let me know and I'll do that. Also, the link for the tool is within the agenda. It's scrolled to the bottom. It's and it's in parentheses. It says tool, click here for tool. On your computer, if you hit control and then click on it, it should take you right to this website.
How many officers are there now on the on SPD?
That I do not know off the top of my head, but that is a good recommendation to either have at the top that just explains like the total department size. Because yeah, as this breaks down into function, it doesn't actually just kind of give that initial overlay.
You might want to break down each precinct. I mean, because the charter says you're supposed to have adequate police protection in every area. So you might want to talk about what adequate is and what that looks like, you know, or going forward, what would it look like? What does it look like now?
All right, any other comments for Austin and Shailene?
I did a really quick search, Reverend Walden, and it looks like sworn officers is about 1,400 and about 631 civilian employees. This is from the city website.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Shailene.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions? Any other comments? Well, thank you, Austin. Thank you, Shailene and Esther, for this very informative presentation. Really appreciate it. There are no other items on our agenda as far as I can see. We've already talked about action item review. So with that being said, that concludes our meeting.
Reverend Williams.
Oh, Alina?
Can I just, no, I was just gonna say, I sent an email to everybody about showing up for a young person that has a court hearing today in Tacoma. There's more information in the email that I sent. I know Brandy and Shailene are gonna be there. I'm hoping for a dismissal of this young person, but in times where I've shown up in court for young people, that tends to sway the judge's decision. So if people have capacity just to show up and be what, you don't need to know him. But I've included the information about his case in that email. So, and that has the Zoom information as well. But if you have any questions, you can feel free to text me or send me an email.
Okay, thank you, Alina. What
Thanks.
time is it?
It's at it starts at 1. It's slated for 1:30 to 3:30, but if it's a dismissal, I don't think it lasts that long.
Okay.
But it starts at 1.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'll send out with the link and stuff.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. All right. If there are no further questions or comments, I want to thank everybody for the time, and you have a great day.
Thank you.
Oh.